Hey friend, welcome back to My Most Authentic Life, where we explore big changes and unconventional paths. I'm Fede Vargas. Today on the show, Anna DeShawn, but first, a bit of Fede philosophy. Lately, I've been thinking about this question. What's it going to take for us to show up, to finally make meaningful change? How long do we keep sweeping things under the rug, waiting for someone else to come along and fix it? How long will we let the same unhealthy cycles keep going? At some point, we got to ask ourselves, when is enough enough? Change doesn't happen on its own. It takes people who finally decide, you know what? I'm done waiting. It's time to act. And every day is an opportunity for us to act. It doesn't matter if it's a big step or a small one. What counts is that you take a step. And that brings me to today's guest, Anna DeShawn. She's a Chicago-born social entrepreneur, storyteller, and community organizer. Anna's out there, empowering underrepresented communities through media and advocacy, making sure voices that need to be heard get amplified. She's a true change maker, and her story is a powerful reminder of what can happen when we decide to take action. This is Anna DeShawn on My Most Authentic Life. I'm super excited to have on Anna DeShawn.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here and to get to know your audience, and for your audience to get to know me.
Amazing, amazing. And on your website, you have a picture of yourself wearing this shirt that got my attention. It's a black shirt with the white words, "Busy making my ancestors proud." And that just says so much. So with that in mind, what drives Anna DeShawn?
I mean, that shirt does kind of encompass the heart of it, which is always wanting to make my community proud, always wanting to make my family proud, and my ancestors just come along for that ride as well. I am deeply passionate about telling stories, specifically of Black folks, specifically of Black queer folks and Black queer women. I believe storytelling gives us an eye into someone's humanity, sort of gives us a window to see the human being. And oftentimes, living in this body, it is very politicized and that can be lost. And so I am just fiercely committed to telling these stories and amplifying them so that those who do not feel seen can be seen and feel heard, and those who want to know and those who are interested in wanting to learn more can tap in and be invited into our table.
I love that. Now, what experience brought you to this point? What was that point in your life that could have taken you in a completely opposite direction?
Oh, I have a friend who told me one time, your record is so clean, you could probably run for political office. Child, I don't know if I ever necessarily had one of those moments, but I will say that I always knew what I wanted to do, and in that media was always part of the plan, in that Robin Roberts has always been someone I've looked up to, who I wanted to be like, and storytelling was just always a part of who and what I wanted to do. And so how that has manifested itself into the world has taken on lots of shapes and forms over the years. And today, the medium for me right now is podcasting. And so we're going to ride that until it doesn't bring me any joy. And when it doesn't, I'll find something else to do.
Awesome. It's cool that you mentioned Robin Roberts there, because there's a quote that I read in our correspondence: "Be grateful, but never content," right? What's
That's
the
right.
significance of that in your life?
Centering gratitude is so important because I quit corporate 3 years ago. It's hard out here. I miss auto pay. Okay. I miss getting a check every 2 weeks. And I love the freedom I have today. I never knew this type of liberation was possible for myself and that I could sustain myself in this way. And It's hard. And it's hard. It is hard. Passion gets you so far. A dream can only get you so far. There are practical applications. You have to have perspective. And for me, gratitude gives me that. And at the same time, staying hungry. And that's where that content piece comes in, because we can get very complacent and we can get, and money that is needed, because doing good also comes with receipts. And so I have to center gratitude in everything so that I can keep things into perspective. And it is in those times that we can often lose ourselves. And so I love that quote almost as much as I love Robin Roberts, but we could talk about that.
Well, I found that out on my research as well, right? That's that will be a dream come true if someone introduces you to her.
Child, I feel like it's coming. Okay, I've come so close so many times. Actually, that's because it's been like 2 or 3 times I've come very close and it has not happened. But I might not have the words, which is not something that I'm usually lost for. But I think I might be lost for words of when I get to meet her. I'm just going to say when.
Yeah, when, of course. Because I feel like it's already happened. You just haven't, this present self hasn't quite got to that moment yet. But it's coming.
Come on, you better talk about the present self. Yes.
Amazing. Well, yeah, I look forward to that happening for you. It's going to be a great moment. On this show, it's always about the personal journey. And you were talking about the auto pay. There's a version of Anna, maybe in a different universe, that is getting that auto pay, talking about the present moment of the present you that's excelling and living this genius and executing it. What's different than that other version of Anna that doesn't exist, that would be at that cubicle?
That version of Anna was great. That version of Anna was happy. I don't want to get anybody twisted here. I have had a very privileged corporate career. It was a very successful corporate career that I had. I grew up in a tech startup, and the people I started working with, I consider them family today. Literally, we have gone through so many stages of life together. So I was excellent at my job and at my career. I was good at it. And I still had this passion project on the side, which was my radio station. I started in November of 2009. And people used to think I did it full time. And I'd be like, I don't do that full time. And it always made me think, if I did do it full time, what would it look like? And over the 12 years I was in corporate, I always had this on the side. It was always something I loved doing, and interviewing people in our communities and telling our stories. But that version of Anna was great. She was wonderful. She just wasn't doing everything she was called to do and giving it everything I had. And that's what that version of Anna was missing.
So getting out there and launching E3 and these streaming platforms, at what point did you break free and make that what you were going to focus on full time?
So in 2021, I quit corporate and to pursue these passions of mine full time. And we've been on this journey ever since. It's the wildest roller coaster I've ever ridden in my life.
And what are some of the challenges?
Challenges, child, pick a day. It could be anything at any given moment. There's so much that you don't know. And I think we can often get stuck in the unknown, and you cannot let that deter you and allow fear to really take hold. Because I don't care how much you read, I don't care how many books you check out from the library, I don't care who your parents, friends are, it does not matter. Your business, who you are, will show up and manifest itself in so many different ways. And there's just so much you will never know. At every stage of this journey, there's something new to learn. There's a new contract. There's new insurance to buy. There's new protocols for what something can look and sound like. And as technology continues to change, then there becomes new tools that you need to learn. The point is that there's never any moment where you should ever feel so confident in yourself that there is nothing else to learn or to garner from every single situation and moment in time. That has probably been one of the biggest challenges outside of just continue funding. Money is needed in this thing. I've got a life, I've got a mortgage, I got an expensive wife, a cute dog. Okay. there are things that have to be paid for. And oftentimes people expect art to just exist. And art does not just exist. Artists have to be supported. And my medium is definitely in art. And, figuring out how you fund this thing is definitely a large challenge as well.
Awesome. So, in this current climate, it's so hard to stay positive, right? And sometimes being out there and being an activist, it's hard to do that with a smile on your face. I've been hearing your content and it comes across with so much grace and positivity despite what's happening and despite the topics that you're talking about, right?
Mhm.
How do you stay positive?
Oftentimes it's looking at the larger picture, which can sometimes be very difficult, especially when something tragic is happening. It's hard to not be completely present in that moment. And I feel like there is always context as well that allows me to look at things with a glass half full and to I don't know, to provide even more context and to be even clearer with that. What I mean is history repeats itself, and oftentimes my mind is held in that context. And when you put yourself in a moment and you can look around and say history is really repeating itself right now, and how do I want to show up in this moment for those who are coming after me, and what are we leaving them to be able to pick up and carry on? That is where I can really center myself and look at things at a particular angle. I mean, give an example. I mean, when it comes to LGBTQ rights, so much of who we are and the rights we've garnered have been stripped away. And it will take another 30-year fight to get back to where we were 10 years ago, right? And history repeats itself. And so I believe that that will, in fact, happen. But now, this generation is now in a fight that we never thought we would have to be in again, right? I think when I look at my, Black American identity, I see attacks on DEI, I see attacks on funds that go to provide investment for Black women. When we talk about the Fearless Fund, I see DEI becoming a bad word and affirmative action all of a sudden becoming a bad word, as if we have cured racism and all of the bias, that implicit bias that exists in all of these systems. I mean, this is history repeating itself in a new form. I mean, I could go on and on about, abortion, right? Who thought that would ever be overturned? And yet here we are, right? Having to pick up another mantle and another fight. And so, in that context, I feel like there is a blueprint that has been laid for us on how we were able to overcome these battles in the past. And so for me, I believe that we can pick up those lessons, apply them to how they need to be applied today in order to get victory in the future. And that allows me to have some perspective that does not negate all of the negative, hatred, and ugly things that are happening, but it does give me I cannot lose hope in this moment, and I don't think anybody else can either, right? And so we have been through worse and we have had better days. And so we just have to, for me, it is about giving that type of perspective to my audience, because otherwise, if you're just scrolling or if you're just watching, the news, you will feel awful. You leave those moments feeling depressed and like you are powerless. And I hope that my listeners, when they tap in, feel empowered. Like there is something that they can hold on to and take an action on that feels tangible, that makes them feel like they have made a difference today. Because otherwise, you don't get that. You don't get that in other places.
Absolutely. I love what you said there, everything that you said there. The hope, the optimism, the empowerment, because otherwise you're left feeling drained and exhausted. You want to put a spotlight on the topics, but leave people feeling like they have the energy to go out and do it themselves, right? So,
Correct.
on that note, then, how do you take care of yourself behind the scenes?
Child, rest. I have been prioritizing rest. I got sick some months ago and I was like, oh, this can't be the case. I go hard in my life and adjusting to what this 40-year-old body needs and not what my 20-year-old body, could do. And so I have been prioritizing rest. I prioritize my prayer and meditation corner. I prioritize journaling and my affirmations. I prioritize my sister circles and my friend circles that encourage me and love me no matter what's going on out in the world or what decision somebody doesn't like that I've made or something I've said that somebody doesn't like. And so that's how I keep my sanity, because otherwise it's very easy to lose it. It's very easy to feel down. It's very easy to feel defeated when you're out here having to be vulnerable every single day and fight for my next paycheck.
Yes, for sure. And with so much news coming at us, in our news feeds everywhere that we go, what can we do? What small steps can we take on a daily basis? Because we can't fight, all those battles. There's so many.
Choose the outlets that you want to tap into. Don't let yourself be overcome by algorithm. Like, give yourself breaks, give yourself timeouts, and tap into the outlets and to the journalists and the influencers and the podcasters that you trust. And give yourself times when you do your check-in and then log off. I think some of the best work we can do is usually inside of the four walls of our home, the walls within which we work. I mean, this is where we can create the change in which we live. So much of it is not going to be this external thing. So much of it is an internal thing and how we are living our lives every day. So take a time out and tap into your trusted sources. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta take care of your mental health container. Now, what's interesting of you as a storyteller based in the U.S., I'm Mexican born, raised in Canada. We're seeing a lot of what you talk about and a lot of the issues that you highlight. They're spilling over into it's all over different regions, right? How do you take that into account? As obviously you're telling your micro story, I guess. Do you keep the global perspective in mind as well? Like, how do you organize your thoughts that way?
There are times when I will add in global news because I do think it's important. I think it was Thailand that's just going to become like the first Southeast Asian country to approve same sex marriage. I think that there's a global barometer, right? When it comes to the inclusion of LGBTQ folks that is worth following. And I think so much of that is not followed unless you are probably tapped into like the BBC or something like that, or want to have a global mindset, which so many of Americans just do not have. So I
Mhm.
think there are times when I definitely talk about global issues as they pertain to our movement, because this thing is bigger than just what's happening in the United States. Even when it comes to things like colorism, which is such a prevalent thing in communities of color, right? These are topics that are global topics and they manifest themselves in different ways. And so I think in those ways, I think about the global picture and always am looking out to see what's happening in other countries and how they are dealing with culture and societal issues. And at the same time, it's not my area of expertise. And I like to lean on those who are because they are the subject matter experts in their own lives, right? But I do follow it. I do follow what's happening around the world. Yeah.
And sometimes by telling a really good local story, well, like doing it in a good way, you're actually speaking about universal topics too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because all of our lives, so much, we think so much is different, but so much of it is the same.
Okay, tell me about one of your other favorite quotes,
Mm.
which I love as well. First, they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. Of
Yeah,
course, that's
Gandhi.
Gandhi.
Yeah, my Gandhi quote. I love that quote. I think I heard that quote for first time in college. It's just a good quote because this is usually the process it takes for people to adapt. It's like when Beyonce drops Renaissance, child, ain't nobody like the whole album. But what you do, you listen to it, a couple times, people start, why she got on silver. I mean, you question everything, child, and then you dig in and then you hear it 1,000 times on the radio, and all of a sudden she winning again. It's like I feel there's a process to human beings adapting to something that is new or a new concept or a new idea. And some things take a lot longer than other things. And I think the point of that quote is to not be deterred,
Yeah.
to not be deterred, because what you have been called to do or what you feel like you ought to be doing in the world is yours. And child, easy ain't even the word. It may feel very impossible. I think there's another quote. I think it was Nelson Mandela. It was just like, it seems impossible until someone does it.
I love that. Yeah.
Until somebody does it, and then it feels like, oh, it's not impossible. In fact, it can be done if you fight for it and you believe in it, and you work towards that. So that's what I think it is. I think the essence of it is to not be deterred.
Do you recall that moment in your life when it seemed impossible?
Yeah, every day I wake up.
Still,
This,
yeah.
this, yeah, this
Yeah.
is, it is not good. I mean, it's just, this world, this life is just wild in that I don't know what's going to happen today. That is scary. And that can feel impossible. I have control over some things, and then I also understand I have control of nothing.
Wow.
And it is in that space in which I live every day. And that's how I know entrepreneurship is not for everybody. And people ought not judge. Okay. Some people, need security and then can do their thing on the side. And I think that that is also beautiful because you have to do what you need to do to give yourself life. And this is how I do it in my wild way. And then you can figure out how you do it in your way. But absolutely, I feel that because there's so many more things that I want to accomplish, more things I want to do, more stories that I want to tell. And honestly have no idea how this is going to come to life. All I do is wake up every day and sit in my mission and my call and do my work. And then we'll see what happens.
I love this. It's a classic example of, walking into the unknown and
Yes,
swimming in the discomfort.
swimming. That's a good way to put it. Treading water sometimes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. But the beauty is we wake up the next day and we have another go at it.
If we so lucky,
Yeah.
right? I was asked a question recently in an interview. What was your most transformative moment?
Hmm.
And I had to think for a second, and it was a recent interview that we did for Second Sunday, which is one of the podcasts we produce on the Cube. And we got the opportunity to interview Bishop Yvette Flunder. And she talks about going from how she believes we go from eternity into time and back into eternity. And when I think about time, consistently, I'm wondering, what am I doing with mine? And what legacy am I leaving? And I think that more people should think in that way because I think we would show up in the world a lot different if we wore that type of perspective.
Ooh, I love that. From eternity into time and then back into eternity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What change are we going to leave behind?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's making me reflect. It's making me think about what you said earlier about the blueprint, right? So we have to
Mm-hmm.
learn from the blueprint, learn from the past, and then with that in mind, then what blueprint do you think we're mapping out now?
Well, I think we need to, you know, this is interesting time. So we're in a digital era, right? And I feel like we're also in a renaissance era of some sorts in that people are doing more than two things. People are doing more than three things. People are doing all the things that give them joy. And I think, and people are doing it so well. And how are these things coming together? And then where are we getting it completely wrong? And then how do we course correct that thing? So things that come to mind for me, yeah, there's social media, but now let's take it up a notch and now we have artificial intelligence, right? And how do we as human beings actually navigate this so that we don't lose our humanity in all of this, right? I think that there's that, and then we have culture and art and politic. So I think the blueprint needs to be equity, it needs to be inclusion, it needs to be what I think liberation looks like for people and freedom. I don't know if we're there yet, but I know a whole bunch of people who are fighting for it, and I believe in them.
And sometimes you're getting feedback, from your external world that you're on the right path. You have a string of, recognition recently. Congratulations, a lot of awards. What kind of fuel is that for you?
It is affirmation. It's affirmation. I sit in my office talking to my microphone, okay, by myself. So when people hear my work, when people are tapped in and they tell me thank you or they tell me that they appreciate it, or like you said, when I get an award or recognition, it is affirmation that I am doing what I am supposed to be doing. That which has come so easy for me in this work is working for me. I think we try out a lot of things in life, But when you're doing that thing that seems so easy, you don't even know if you should be getting paid for it, then you feel like you're doing exactly what you ought to be doing, you know?
Yeah. Your zone of genius.
Yes, come on. You got to do your research. Yes, The Big Leap, one of my favorite books, 100 hands down. I have definitely listened to it at least 3 times, and I like to revisit it often because working in my zone of genius is the goal every single day. Every single day.
Well, it shows. It shows for sure. And now we're going to go into rapid fire round to end the show. I won't ask you what your favorite book is because we just went through that. But the first question, what's the hardest truth you've faced about yourself on this journey?
This ain't rapid fire.
It's personal development self-help podcast rapid fire.
Which means I need a couch and
we need a follow-up episode.
And soothing music. Okay, give it to me one more time.
Okay, what's the hardest truth you've faced about yourself on this journey?
That I am uncomfortable with ease. And I give that to my sister friend, Dr. Lisa Wolfark, who hosts the Stitch Please podcast. And she told me Black women are uncomfortable with ease. And that is a truth I am learning to accept.
Wow. Yeah, just when things feel good, right?
When things are too easy.
Yeah.
It is hard to accept that this could be my life and my truth. Yeah.
Wow. Next. What's the most empowering truth you've discovered about yourself on this journey?
That I am good at what I'm doing. That I am, in fact, enough.
Amazing. And finally, what's your definition of authenticity?
Showing up as my full self, every single identity, and not being ashamed of any piece of who I am, but grateful and more grateful. Yeah, grateful. Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Anna. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your story. And hopefully the listeners can check out your work. All the notes will be in the episode resources. You're doing great stuff. Thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work you're doing. I appreciate you.
That's today's personal journey. You can follow me around the web at My Most Authentic Life and connect with me at mymostauthenticlife.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, make the most of every moment and keep living time on.